Competition entries on a postcard, please, to this address. Word for word, BBC Television Centre, London W12 8QT. Next Saturday, Word for Word will be back to the earlier part of the evening at 8:25. In 5 minutes, the midnight movie is Vincent Minnelli's classic Under the Clock, starring Judy Garland and Robert Walker. And that follows the news on 2 with Peter Woods.
President Carter, now on his way to the Tokyo Economic Summit, has called for concerted action from the major industrial countries over oil. Mr. Carter said he'd propose that the 7 countries attending the summit, including Britain, should all cut their oil imports to agreed targets. They should also agree to stop competitive bidding, forcing up oil prices. And they should try to produce more energy from coal, solar power and synthetic fuels.
Mr. Carter knows he will face skepticism from the other Western countries in Tokyo about the United States' will and ability to reduce its own dependence on imported oil, and his departure speech was designed to signal that America will try to play its part. He did not mention the European plan to freeze oil imports for 5 years, but the tone of his remarks was sympathetic.
President Sadat has asked the Egyptian parliament to pass a resolution allowing the exiled Shah of Iran and his family to take refuge in Egypt. Mr. Sadat said he made the proposal in the name of Islam, Christianity and civilization. The Shah, who's now in Mexico, stayed with the Egyptian president when he first left Iran in January. More than 2,000 Vietnamese refugees who said they'd rather die than go back to sea are to be allowed to stay in Malaysia. They're in camps at Kuantan and on an offshore island. But Malaysian troops continued the policy of preventing more refugees landing when they turned back 3 boats with over 200 on board. The first British troop reinforcements to help with the mounting refugee problem in Hong Kong left from RAF Bryce Norton today. They're an advance party from the 600 Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, who with 2 companies of Gurkhas will strengthen the British force in Hong Kong. A march protesting about Vietnamese boat people settling in this country was held in London today. As Brian Hanrahan reports, it was organised by the National Front.
The police snaked the march around the streets of central London, hoping to confuse counter-demonstrators. But by dashing through side streets, some of the front's opponents managed to confront the marchers along the route. In one incident, several missiles, including 2 milk bottles, were lobbed over the police. In all, 21 arrests were made. But mostly both sides settled for hurling abuse at each other. The marchers, by police estimates, numbered about 850, and they were easily outnumbered by 2 or perhaps 3 times as many police.
A man claiming to be the Yorkshire Ripper, held to be responsible for 11 murders, has sent a tape recording to police giving details of murders which have never been published. Mr. George Oldfield, West Yorkshire's Assistant Chief Constable, who's leading the inquiry, has sent copies to police stations throughout the north of England to try to identify the voice. Leading members of the North Devon Liberal Party said they want Mr. Jeremy Thorpe to stand again as their candidate. Mr. Thorpe lost the seat in last month's general election. Messages continue to arrive today at Mr. Thorpe's London home following his acquittal. Mr. Thorpe invited cameramen into the nearby garden. He was with his wife Marion, her granddaughter Emily, and his son Rupert. Mr. Thorpe wouldn't be drawn by reporters even on whether he'd had a good night.
Yes, you do. The answer to that one is yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Thorpe said he had nothing further to add to the statement he'd made yesterday, but he and his family are believed to be planning a holiday. West Indies cricketers retained the potential World Cup, beating England at Lord's by 92 runs. Man of the match Vivian Richards closed the West Indies innings with a magnificent shot off the last ball. Richards was 138 not out, and when England batted, he took a brilliant catch to dismiss Botham. finally, the last man out, Hendrick, facing Croft. West Indies the winners, and still to lose a World Cup match after 2 series. Railway preservation enthusiasts have been converging on North Wales to mark the silver jubilee of the Festiniog Railway. It runs from Porthmadog on the coast to the outskirts of Blenheim Festiniog, a distance of about 12 picturesque miles. It's exactly 25 years since a small band of dedicated enthusiasts took over the derelict narrow-gauge railway and set about the task of restoring the line to its former glory of a century earlier. The track was overgrown, buildings were crumbling, and the equipment was rotting. But the enthusiasts pressed on, aided by a huge squad of volunteers over the years. Tomorrow, a celebration dinner will mark the Jubilee.
And here's a look at tomorrow's weather. A rather cool and cloudy day is expected, with outbreaks of showery rain in most districts. However, some brighter intervals are likely, especially in western areas, and southwestern parts of England will have sunshine at times. Afternoon temperatures will range between 13 degrees centigrade, 55 Fahrenheit in northern Scotland, and 17 degrees centigrade, 63 Fahrenheit in the south of England. A look ahead now to Sunday evening's programmes on 2. At 7:15, Wimbledon 79. John Barrett previews the prospects and players for this year's championship. At 8:05, the first of a new drama series, Turning Year Tales.
They weren't just workmates. They spent most of their spare time together, shared all the same crazes. A right bunch they were too. They called themselves the Figaro Club.
At 8:35, The Gypsy Princess, a new film of Emmerich Kallman's lively operetta. And at 10:20, a special World About Us report on the animals down on the factory farm.
2 generations ago, most of our food did come from farms like this. But nowadays, the reality is that they've almost completely disappeared and been replaced by this.
To round off the evening, the Murder International season continues with M, Fritz Lang's classic film based on the true story of a child murderer and starring Peter Lorre. Programmes for Sunday evening here on 2. And now there's romance in the air as we come to the midnight movie Under the Clock. Made in 1944 and directed by Vincent Minnelli, it stars Judy Garland and Robert Walker.